Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Psychology and Spirituality, a Bridge to a Better Life discussion. I'm your host, Marcia Trajano, and with me is Dr. Julio Padovan. For those who have not met Julio, he's a researcher at the Rockefeller University as well as an adjunct associate professor at the Department of Chemistry at York College in New York City. Julio holds several academic degrees. He's a lecturer in both physical sciences, but so happy that he also speaks a lot about Spiritism. Julio was first introduced to Spiritism when he was only 15 years old, and he's particularly interested in study and explaining this. Right, Julie, this foundation between Spiritist concepts and how we think. So he will be great at our discussion today. And I want to thank you, Julia, for leading this conversation. We're going to be talking today about suffering. I know it's a horrible thing, but what are the origins of suffering? What is the role of pain? And something very important as a component of it all, which is how can we heal ourselves? I would like to bring here, Julio, a couple of aspects around pain, because from a spiritual dimension, we are told that the memory that our spiritual self, our spirit preserves, that is painful, right? There's a painful component, but as a spirit, I'm talking about a spirit, not an incarnated spirit, but a spirit. It does not have a physical body. It does not have a physical outcome, and I'm talking about the fact that let's say. Upon my disincarnation, my death, my physical death, my soul does not have a burn or it's not frozen. There's not, they have a wound, right? So that's one component. But from a material perspective, in our lifetime, in our corporeal existence, our body is actually this very specific instrument of pain. And so we need to do the correlation that the pain that we endure in today, for example, and we all have some pain points, right? The pain that we endure sometimes is completely unrelated to either our lifestyle or even our genetic predisposition. So I say this because understanding these aspects of pain is important to potentially understand that there is a type of pain that will help us elevate us, right? Which pain is that? The pain that we go through to help us overcome a challenging situation, a pain that will lead us to redemption. But with that, I'm going to pivot back to you, Julio, and I want to say thank you for being here with me today and to talk about something that it's pretty much universal, right? But if you're here with us today, with me and Julio, and this is the first time that you're watching this program, please note that the Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based on the works by Joanna de Angelis. And we're here to create a space that is safe so that we can perhaps confront, compare, correlate, and even expand our concepts of spirituality from a psychological lens and bringing perhaps insights or tips or anything that is here for us to reach a better life. Before I start, I want to say thank you for those organizations that are sponsoring this program: TV Mansão do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and in Brazil, AMI Brazil. And make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, feedback, critique, please write in the chat window and we will address them at a later time. I want to say, Julio, you are a researcher, you are a scientist, and I'm sure you can recognize the progress that astounding progress if you think in terms of the past 3 years, when we had to deal with the COVID as a pandemic, right? A true global pandemic. But when we look at how much progress the scientific community has done, and we're doing this to do what, right? To bring, to create, to innovate, and find resources to address, on one hand, maybe pathologies, help us have a better lifestyle, prevent other pathology, right? And I'm always astounded, Julia, because we go through all of this and we address old diseases, right? There's a time for research, and for proving, for creating, and offering to the public at large. So we we bring that, and we're now healing old diseases, but then there's some new diseases that come and challenges the scientific community again. So why is that, Julio? Maybe you can talk a little bit about it before we can start talking about pain proper.
Okay. Oh, hello everyone, and Marcia, thank you for your invitation. Well, there's quite a lot there in that question. Let us try to break this a little into little things, into little problems. The first thing is that as we age and as we live longer, we show other malfunctions or dysfunctions of the biology
Mhm.
that we do not know about because we never lived that long. It's very important when we address diseases that we understand that our knowledge is statistical. It
Correct.
doesn't count for the population that I should say, oh, but my grandfather, my grandmother, or my father. It's important to me. Of course, I love them. If one of them is not feeling well or one of them passes away, I feel it. But it's not important for the population. When we talk about diseases, we need to have statistical evaluation. We need to know a representative number of people that will actually, well, as I said, represent that population or the whole population. So as we live longer and longer, we are getting to newer and newer diseases or newer medical conditions. They're not necessarily a disease, simply because before we hadn't lived that long. This is why our knowledge is good, but it's always improving, and new things are always showing up.
That's right.
It's very simple, but it is the essence of it.
Hmm. So could we correlate perhaps, because I want you to pivot this conversation perhaps, Julio, to the origins of pain, right? Pain and suffering, of course, as a correlated concept here. But can we talk about, okay, we address and new diseases, and we're aging, and we're becoming really good about aging youthfully. This is a paradox, right? But
No,
more
I
and more,
understood. I understood that. Yeah, let's say we are aging gracefully.
I love it. I love it. So we're more and more aging gracefully. We live in a world that, from a technology perspective, it's amazing how much it's at our fingertips. Maybe medication, or I don't know, therapies, or even procedures to help us cope with this mechanism, this body, right? But as I mentioned before, this body is an instrument of pain, because through pain we learn. Let's just talk about this issue of pain. And this is not, everyone out there, this is not an apology for going through pain, or any of those instruments that we can think of in the medieval age, days, right? In that age where you self-inflicted pain to purify your body. But we are here to talk about pain, and pain is somehow inherent part of our lives, right? Especially this corporeal existence. Can we talk perhaps, Julio, in this world, right? We are, from a spiritual perspective, we are called upon being here in a tone, expiate, whatever, repair. Those are different words for the process of redemption, but to address our past mistakes or the hurts, right? The hurt that I caused to myself, that I caused to others, the hurt that someone else caused to me. And can you talk a little bit about how this pain itself is an opportunity for us to really reflect upon how we go about addressing and repairing, if you will, any damages that we cause.
Okay. So here's what I was thinking before. That there's quite a
Mm.
lot in one question, and I have to break down a little bit. Yeah, because otherwise it's hard for, especially for those who are seeing this for the first time or hearing
Uh-huh.
about this. So
Yes.
let us make a few points here. First of all, we are aging more gracefully these days, not because of medical technology. It certainly
Okay.
helps,
Hmm.
but being capable of fixing something doesn't mean that the machine will continue to operate as well as it was or had been. So we are actually aging more gracefully because we are paying more attention to what we eat. We are cultivating our vegetables, our fruits, even meats. We have better ways of storing them, transporting them. All of this infrastructure brings us better a better nutrition, better ways of living in terms of housing. And all of these things together is what is promoting longer lifetimes. And of course, when we have a problem here or there, a condition here or there, medical knowledge as well. But it's not medical knowledge. It's not pharmaceutical knowledge either. It's
Mm.
this whole set of things. But all of this is physical. It's taking care of this physicality.
Yes.
When now we move away from this and we speak of pain in a more spiritualizing way, we have to understand what pain is. First of all, we must eliminate from our vocabulary all of these things of um, uh, atonement,
Hmm.
expiation, mistakes, sins. They are very negative. Are they errors in our past? Are they misconducts? They are. We can give them any names. What I want to convey here is not to ban the words,
Hmm.
but whenever we say them, perhaps we should have in our heads a translator that would tell us that these are mistakes of our past, but that we are here because we have been given an opportunity to correct for them, not to atone anymore, not to expiate, because all of these things, expiation, atonement. Why is this important? When I say I have to expiate, psychologically, what I'm saying is that there is an external force outside of me forcing me to accommodate to a situation,
Interesting. Yeah.
which is different than when I say, oh, I am aware now that I was horrible to that person, or that I cut in front of the line, or that I stole something from the office, or whatever it is.
Hmm.
I have become aware, and now I feel embarrassed for my own actions. Now, we are not talking about changing human justice because of that,
Uh-huh.
but it's important for us to understand this concept because divine justice is not based on being caught red handed. It's not
Uh-huh.
based on evidence. Divine justice is based on intention. So we
Hmm.
actually commit many more mistakes that human justice is not even aware of.
Can I just stop here because I think the word that you're saying is quite interesting. Awareness. right? Awareness, and I think that's a key, perhaps, element for what we're discussing here, right? We make mistakes, but the key point is, are we aware of the mistakes that we're making? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So, yeah, this awareness is what
Uh-huh.
is key. And because we have this awareness, now I don't need an external force. Like here, for instance, on Earth, in any society, in a human society, we have human justice telling us you have to be penalized for this or for that. I
Hmm.
don't have to do that. Now I have it in me. So, this is the most important thing for us to understand, I believe. And we have to change towards this. Pain is a mechanism, it's a self mechanism of progress,
Hmm.
in the sense that it starts with my awareness of something I might have done or might have said or even might have thought, because we even correct our own thoughts.
Right.
Yes, and like I said, in spiritualizing way, a divine justice, the creator's that justice, whatever name we want to give to that, that which is beyond us at the moment, it's based on intention and not on evidence. There's another huge difference between divine justice and human justice. Human justice is focuses on punishment, penalization, penalties, fees, you name it. In divine justice, you won't pass that grade until you get good grades. So basically, oh, you made a mistake. Why do you think so? You think you made a mistake? Here's another opportunity. Go there and correct it. Another one. And another one. And we are going to go through this cycle as many times as it is needed.
It's
Now,
quite an interesting way, right, to think about
yes, it's very
this.
different.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not rewarding something we did wrong. So it's not
Hmm.
abetting a crime. It's not saying, "Oh no, no, oh you're so poor you and this and that." No, it's not that. It's not complacency. It's just saying, "Okay, you think you made a mistake. Here's an opportunity. Show me that you have really redeemed yourself for yourself to yourself. You don't have to prove it to me, the creator. You don't have to prove to others. No, you have to prove to yourself."
So
So this is what
it's an
is,
inner journey, right, Julia?
yes.
If you think about it,
Now,
it's almost what I'm thinking here is a marathon. So it's not a sprint; it's a marathon that you're running, right? It's long, it's hard, it's even painful, but the marathon that you're running is against yourself. You
yeah,
can take as long as you want because this the acceleration, the velocity, the achievement is all you to yourself. So there is no need for us to be thinking about all these external factors that are leading us to be well or not. It is all on us.
yes. Of course, I'm not advocating in favor of getting what divine justice does and put it in our human justice, because right now it wouldn't work. We
Hmm.
need some form of, let's say, penalization here.
Hmm.
I don't think we should need to go to excesses, to
Hmm.
extremes, but we
Hmm.
still we still need some form of. It's like something prodding us in the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
I Julio, I'm just going to be interrupting for fun. This is for fun. You
okay,
said
no,
you don't watch TV. You don't watch TV, right?
no, I
So
don't.
but what I do, and this is something with streaming services, I become quite interested in looking at detective stories, right? So detective serials on different parts of the world. And do you know, Julia, that I always play here at home and we joke around whenever there is a depiction of a prison system. I'm like, oh, I think I would be a criminal in that. If you talk about perhaps Iceland, Sweden, or England or France is a very different way to penalize, to address crimes. And I always make fun of it because we, even within our own humanity, and we're talking about the 21st century, the way this human, right? This material justice is done, even that has many, many variations. Just a thought,
Yes,
just a comedy break here for us.
sure, sure. No, but why did I bring up this difference between divine justice and and human justice? It's important for the discussion of pain, and for a
Mhm,
very simple reason, because most of what we endure in life, most, not all, this is important. Those who are next to us, surrounding us, or even if only temporarily, they have some form of developed free will that allows them to exercise their thoughts, their choices, and they can hurt us. So they do have an opportunity to do so if they choose to do so. Okay, but most of what of those things that are more significant in our lives, perhaps more
mhm,
persistent, they are actually a form that we found. We found, nobody found it for us. It's no imposition
mhm,
that we found to deal with situations of our past. We call this atavism. You can imagine this as being a spiritual inheritance,
mhm.
but it's an inheritance not from somebody else. We don't inherit from our parents. We inherit this from ourselves, from our past lives.
Are you talking perhaps about personal unconscious, Julio, from Jungian vocabulary, right? What we bring within ourselves.
It's the archet it's built into the formation of the archetypes, for
Okay,
instance.
okay.
It is the it's what is the unconscious or subconscious
Mm-hmm.
today.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone here has done regressive therapy,
Yeah.
past lives therapies, like regressions, this is where the therapist is tapping into. Basically, it's something that is in us, is part of our construction, the
Mm-hmm.
construction of our psyche,
Yeah.
and it may not manifest itself directly because it's either in the unconscious or the subconscious, but every now and again it surfaces to the conscious mind, and we then manifest it directly. So these diseases that we have, you might say right now, oh, but these things, this is material. If I have a
Correct.
bacterial or viral infection, well,
Yes.
let's get there now. First of all, pain doesn't have to be physical. Pain is first at the psychological level, and then from that psychological level, it may or may not express itself physically. It's a somatization that we say, the
Mm-hmm.
technical term. We somatize. Okay. Now, how is it possible for pain to be somewhat psychological? Give a simple example. If someone snags a cuticle, for instance, like you're in the office, a colleague just bump something in the corner of between the nail and the cuticle, and we all know how painful that is, right? And then
Uh-huh.
sometimes you see the person, just a little bit of blood there, and we see it. The first thing we go is like, "Oh my God!" Right? But
Yeah.
why do we go like? Why do we have this reaction if we don't have the pain, the physical pain? Because we can associate and relate to it. So there is a psychology behind it. There is a memory because perhaps we have gone through that in life at least once. So we can invoke that memory and we understand what the person is going through, not in every possible detail, but we do.
And this is an interesting point because it's an empathetic response to the other person's pain, right?
Yes, yeah, we have all
Mm-hmm.
this empathy, this or the relation,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, why is
Mm-hmm.
it that we have this empathy? Why is it that it's because we have that in our minds. There
Mm-hmm.
is somewhere there in our psyche, we understand that process. And even when it's, let's say, a disease now, let's move to a disease. Not because this
Mm-hmm.
is like just a medical condition. We got uh, snug cut, a cuticle, right? Or you have a cut or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go to a disease. Even when we see someone suffering in the hospital with this or that, or someone breaks an arm, that's a medical condition, not a disease. Um, Even if we have never broken a bone, even if we have never had that particular disease, we end up having associations with things that we felt, that we experienced, that gives us an idea. It's not the exact same thing, but an idea of what that individual must be going through. So all of this is in us, it's built in us. So why is it that we somatize sometimes these experiences from our past? Because we are, in a way, psychological beings,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it is so ingrained in us that the Greeks used to call the fluids in our bodies the humors.
That's
Not
right.
humor in ha-ha and comical, but there was, for instance, that the liver was always associated with rage, with hatred, and we
Mm-hmm.
would say things like the person has an imbalance in the liver. This is how the first physicians would work, right? The blood was related to fevers. You had to. This is why we had the bloodletting during the Middle Ages, and
Mm-hmm.
for thousands of years, that's how we behaved. We
But
associated psychological reactions to physical organs.
But there is an interrelation, right, Julio? In
Sorry?
fact, and I know we're beyond using things to take away the blood because we have fever, or understanding anger in the liver itself, for example. But there is an intertwining of our, like you said before, you alluded to the psychosomatic response to somatization of a disease based on an emotion, a feeling, or an mental imbalance, perhaps, right?
Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
why am I going down this avenue?
Uh-huh.
Exactly because medicine can treat the physical body. You go there, have a broken arm, they fix it. You have a bad heart, they put a valve in it, they have a transplant, they do something, and then they are extraordinarily good. And we
Mm-hmm.
have developed medicine to very high levels.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: the next challenge we humans have is to deal with the mind.
Yes.
Right now, for instance, our lives are very stressful. We're not dying of a heart attack. The heart attack is the last part. The heart attack is the push over the cliff. But
Yeah.
what is it that brings us to the cliff in the first place? The stressful lives we live. So we are not paying attention to that. So with all that we have done, all that we know today in terms of nutrition, exercising, and medical, we are still having a huge number of individuals dying of cardiovascular related diseases. So let's look at our lives. And life today is much more stressful than it used to be 50 or 100 years ago. Even though we have more at our disposal, it's more stressful.
Yeah.
Perhaps even much more stressful than the things we can accumulate,
Yeah.
or with the ease with which we can accumulate things. So this is where the spiritualization comes in.
Yeah.
We bring these tendencies. Nobody brings a disease from the grave or from a past life, from a past grave or from a past life. What we
Mm.
bring is an inclination.
Yeah. The tendency,
So,
right?
I'm sorry?
The genetic tendency, perhaps, of
Yeah,
yeah.
perhaps it's in our genetic, or even when it's not, we find a
Yeah.
way because there are genetic factors that we get from mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not blaming them, but they are the ones that give us the genetic material. Period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It ends there.
Yeah.
We don't go to the next step to blame them. No. But then we forget that we have epigenetic factors. Epigenetic factors is everything that's outside of our genome, of our genetics.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lifetime of epigenetic factors, but we have
Uh-huh.
only one set of genetic factors that we get from birth.
Yeah.
So the epigenetic factors today are being looked more in terms of their role in our lives. But back to the pain, we don't bring the pain, we bring tendency. So for instance, if I now develop a heart disease or cardiovascular disease or high blood pressure, for instance, perhaps I should look at see myself, isn't it lack of humility? I want everyone to behave the way I want. I demand of people to behave in this or that way. Or I am not patient at all. So if I am in the supermarket line, there's going to be a big storm, snow or rain, and now there's a huge line because everyone decided to stock some food. Do I have to blow a gasket because of that? So if I blow a gasket and then I have a cardiovascular episode, oh,
Mm-hmm.
is it my past? Well, it is my past in the sense that I never learned or never developed humility, patience, the sense of coordination with my surroundings, interaction with my surroundings. So it is possible to somatize things, but in the process of somatization, of transforming something that is psychological into
Mm-hmm.
physical, it is possible for us to go many different ways. So this removes that eye for an eye thing, one eye for one eye. So
Mm-hmm.
if I died with a bullet in the last time, I'm not gonna have to kill someone today or have that individual be killed that shot me killed by. It doesn't work like this.
Yeah, yeah, if I may, Julio, I think it's important, right? Because in many reincarnationist philosophies, we have inherent in the idea of life after life or death after death, right? Because it's one life, one spirit, of perhaps a karmic debt, if you will, with whatever I've done. I have to suffer it. So I love what you said here. The eye for an eye is something that is quite obsolete because, as we know in Spiritism, is very strong in its discussion of while there is a law of action and reaction, right? You are responsible for your actions. We can also think in terms of perhaps the fact that it does not have to be like the third law of Newton, the same in the what is it? The reaction is the opposing to the initial action. We don't need to do this. We can um, search for equilibrium without having to suffer through the same issues. I don't know if I make if I'm trying to see if I'm making sense of your words, Julio.
Well, I'll put it this way.
Uh huh.
Um, Brothers and sisters out there, I tell
Yeah.
you this that will be useful to you whether you are full atheist
Hmm.
all the way to someone that's completely spiritualist, not spiritualized, spiritualist, and
Hmm.
anything in between. Be true to yourself. Be consistent with yourself. You cannot believe that there is something out there. In Spiritism, we call it God or Creator, but in other religions, that it answers for different names to different names. So if you cannot say that that which is out there that is all loving, because all the time honored religions, their maximal representation is always all powerful and all loving. They are. We may dislike one or another. It doesn't matter what our prejudices are. If we are to study them, we'll see that the maximal representation is always all powerful, all loving, all intelligence, you name it, all justice. So You cannot say that that individual, let's call it entity, let's not
Entity,
being
yeah, yeah.
entity, that entity can be all powerful, all intelligence, all justice, all love. When you say, oh, that entity is forcing me to undergo the crime I committed. Why is that? Because then indirectly, that entity is forcing somebody else now to shoot you if you shot someone in a past life.
Yeah.
Where's the justice in that my representation by that entity in telling me for, oh, in this reincarnation, Julio, you have to go and shoot someone because that someone you're going to shoot has been shot in a past life. What have I done? So we
And
have to be
yeah,
consistent.
and of course, it would lead to a cyclical, right, system that never breaks, in theory, and a very childish type or immature way of dealing with us, the creature, from our creator. So very, very good point. I really appreciate you
And,
bringing
and,
that.
and just to close to something we said at the very beginning, um, we, particularly we Westerners, we get
Hmm.
this very wrong from Hinduism,
Hmm.
among other religions. Karma is not that. Karma is a stage in our lives when we become aware of what we did that was completely destructive for ourselves and
Mm.
sometimes to others.
Uh-huh.
And we are so eager. Not, it's not about embarrassment, about being feeling guilty or feeling culpable. No, we are so eager to do something to correct for it
Hmm.
that we accept, let's say, lesser positions in life, lesser um, positions or conditions in life.
Hmm.
It is a way that it's a self-imposed penalization. It's a
Hmm.
self-imposed fee or penalty, whatever it is. Nobody else is. Nobody else does that for us. We do.
Interesting. Yeah.
This is the concept of karma. It is an awareness. So the individual is growing just because he or she has become aware of that. And this brings us back to pain. That individual may manifest that,
Uh-huh.
somatize that into a condition, because it's the only way that that individual, that is spiritualized being, finds to redeem himself or herself, to himself, for himself, or to herself, or for herself.
Yeah.
It's a path that the individual takes.
Yeah. So pain, good or bad?
Pain is always good.
Always good.
Pain
Okay.
is always good.
Uh-huh.
Look, I'm not talking about the frivolous pain, like you step on a nail, or you
Oh,
you step in a or
I'm
you
feeling the
you
pain. I'm
yeah, you
feeling
see,
the pain.
or you step in a shard of glass. I mean, we're not talking. We can't say that everything that happens to us. I mean, the shard of glass was there because someone was careless, broke something, and did not sweep it properly. That's a different story.
Uh-huh.
That's what I call frivolous pain. The pain itself is not frivolous. It's the episode. It's a frivolous pain episode. That's what I mean.
Correct.
But when we think about the diseases, when we think about the difficulties we have in life, difficulties of adjustment,
Hmm.
these are all psychological manifestations of our past mistakes. It is a step of awareness that happened sometime in the past, and that now we are trying to use for our own benefit. Because it's for our own benefit, pain itself as pain is not good, but pain serves a purpose. When we think of the purpose, it's always beneficial. Always beneficial.
Yeah.
In the
So I
same
think it's
way,
important, right? I think it's important for us to think of that. The beneficial qualities of pain as a perhaps a trigger. I'm not sure if I'm using the words correct, so please correct me. But pain as a trigger for us to self-correct in our own needs. So it's an inner compass, if you think in terms of a navigational tool that you use as a compass to redirect to whatever direction you choose to go. Then pain becomes that tool to self-direct in terms of our own state, right? As a child, I may make choices that are very childish but appropriate to my age. As I grow and I continue to do the same mistakes, the same issues, then I'm not growing. And I may suffer some pain. That point that I become aware of, oh, I'm missing the opportunity. I'm missing this, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's very interesting to think of pain in those perspectives. And Julia, one thing that I know we're about to close on our time. We have a few minutes left, but I was just wondering if you could talk perhaps about the difference between pain and suffering.
Okay. Pain is our perception because it can be, this is going to sound strange, it can be not there.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Like
As opposed to it's
phantom
not
pain.
there.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
can be not there.
yeah,
In the sense that I think it is, therefore for me, it is.
yeah,
But if you have a doctor or any medical practitioner or therapist, they say, no, it's not. It's not. Oh, it's in your head then. Right? So it can be not there. So, but the suffering is the mechanism. Suffering is the process.
hmm,
Pain and suffering are two different things. They are together, but we can
hmm,
separate one from the other. This brings us back to Joanna de Angelis.
hmm.
And when we study, what she's saying is that stop asking yourself, why me? You chose this. We chose our moments. We chose not only the pain, but also somehow, as we live our lives, we also choose our suffering.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing. The pain is perhaps one decision. The suffering is a collection, it's multiple decisions
Hmm.
that we make throughout life. And you chose it. So ask yourselves, like we should ask ourselves, how am I going through this? What is it going to bring to me? Because in this way, we have a much more progressive, respectful, constructive view of any difficult moment. Definitely much better than complaining the whole time,
Correct. Yeah, that's a very
blaming
good
this,
point.
that, and the other, blaspheming even.
Hmm.
So that's number one. So you chose it. Now you can choose how to suffer. This is where Joanna de Angelis helps us so much in choosing how to suffer. Because in choosing how to suffer, we can be kind of guided, but we cannot be guided in choosing um, in choosing the pain itself, because the pain, the origin of it is kind of a vortex,
Hmm.
we throw ourselves in. So once we have made that decision, what they can help us with, the assisting entities, whether we call them spirits, angels, it doesn't matter. The assisting entities that are more intelligent than we are, they have a higher moral ground than we have. They can assist, guide us through the choices we can make through the process of suffering. What is that? Okay, one of them is resignation, forbearance.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you look two in a hospital ward, you have
yeah.
two patients. Usually, if they're in the same room, they have roughly the same conditions. One is all smiles. He or she may be going through extraordinary amounts of physical pain, but there is always a smile. The doctor comes to them or a nurse comes to them and say, "Are you in pain?" Only when I smile, but they have a smile that is this big, right? So they are not denying what they're going through. This is not denial, but they choose not to let that control them. And then on the next one, you have the individuals who are moaning, groaning, complaining, blaspheming. It, now, it the one that is all smiles may actually pass away, and the
Hmm.
other one may actually survive and even be, let's say, cured for medical standards.
Sure.
But in the end, for a full life, the spiritualizing life,
Yeah.
the one that passed away truly got rid of what was bothering him or her, because it supported, it was resilient, it it bore all that was physical, that was brought by that situation, that disease situation, whereas the other one did not. That other one, if his problem or her problem was lack of humility, aggression, that is withstood that individual. And next time around, we'll
Be the
bring it
same.
again.
That's a very good point. I love this discussion. I think it's really a number of really paradigm shifts in how we think about ourselves and how we think about our pain, right? Painful moments, our experience of the situation, the event, the condition, and it is as varied, almost as varied as the number of people that are there, right, Julio? You start talking about population health and how scientific research is done on a statistical view of the problem, not the personal view. But I keep thinking that at the end of the day, we each one of us suffer and go through those painful moments differently depending on our where we are in our own spiritual evolve evolvement, right? How in our path to our own evolution. But with that, Julie, we are at time. Do you want to just a few last words before we close today? And I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Julio.
Oh, thank you for the
Yeah,
invitation. I really enjoyed it.
yeah,
Very quickly, remember when I mentioned about the frivolous pain episode? For that, we have pharmaceuticals, right? You
that's
can
good.
take an antibiotic. If you cut you can take a tetanus shot if it was there's a nail. Okay, you can even take something that will kind of make your the area numb so you don't feel as much. Fine, but all the other pains in our lives. This is why we speak of Joanna de Angelis. This is why she speaks to us. These pains are inherent. They are us, and we are the pain. It's you don't separate. We have this problem of saying I have pain. We don't have pain. It's a painful moment for us. That's it. We can't separate ourselves from the pain. So there are no pharmaceuticals for them. This type of pain, there are no pharmaceuticals. There's no medical procedure for it. What happens is that we have to grow out of it, whatever caused it in the first place. This is where I said the spiritualizing entities, they can assist us in how to suffer. This is how we move away from the origins of that particular event.
That's
What
very
some
good.
of us do is become addicted to this, that, or the other, whether it is alcoholic beverages, whether it doesn't matter, or painkillers, or they they don't move us away from the origin of that pain. Like I said before, next time around we're back here, we'll bring whatever origin for that pain back with us, because it is us. We are that origin as well.
Ah, beautiful, beautifully said. I want to say to everyone here today, thank you for being with us. Thank you, Julio. I love to have you back when you have a chance and see everyone next time. Bye bye, everyone.